Hi, I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with WNK, and in this video, we're talking about the potential for severe weather late Wednesday going into Thursday for southern Kentucky, and then maybe middle Thursday morning for northern half of Kentucky. So, a couple of different moving parts here, so make sure you're locked all the way in through the video so that you know what's going on throughout your portion of Kentucky. And as always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and share this video with your family and friends. Let's get into the video. So before we roll into the video, I want to tell you that we're going to look at the current SPC outlook as well as current model data. Tonight, we'll probably make our own forecast, but I want to wait for model data to get a bit more consistent on that. All right. But for just simplicity's sakes, we're going to look at this one model here. It's called the North American model, aka the NAM 3K. I feel like it's handling this best so far. When I look at the other two models, the rapid refresh is kind of leaning toward the NAM 3K's idea. The HRR model does well in the first 24 hours of its long range runs, but then it kind of loses events in the back half. So I'm not really sure what to think when it comes to the HRR model. So for the NAM 3K model, we're going to roll with this. So I want to go ahead and kind of advance this on forward to Wednesday here, just kind of show you this does start as a regular rain or maybe even a freezing rain for far northern Kentucky. What I mean by that is Cynthiana, Florence, is far northern portion, basically north of the 64 corridor. The reason for that is when the rains actually start, when the precip actually turns on, you might technically be at or just below freezing. So we don't expect super big impacts from this. So don't get scared when you hear freezing rain. And a lot of people do, and that's very fair. But ice accumulations may be on limbs, sticks, grassy areas, elevated things. When it comes to roadways should be at or above freezing for most folks in Kentucky. And so I don't expect too many commuting impacts by this, but might wake up to see some ice accretion on some things Wednesday morning, maybe even going toward lunchtime until we eventually warm up. And that warm up is what sets the stage for the potential for severe weather late Wednesday going into Thursday. So I want to show you the temperatures here. So this is valid for Wednesday right around lunchtime, noon p.m., 12 p.m. Eastern time, I should say. Low 40s in southern Kentucky, mid 30s in central Kentucky. Watch the temperatures as we go through the afternoon. Look at it. Look at the warm air just surge up. I mean, this is so right here. This is valid for dinner time, 7 p.m. 39 degrees in Elizabethtown. Watch what happens by the time we get toward 2 a.m. Look, it's a jump of almost 25 degrees for some people. So this is what's setting the stage for those of you that are asking, hey George, isn't it too cold to have severe weather? Right now, yeah, maybe. But talking about tomorrow night, that 6 hour period, we're really going to jump up. And Southern Kentucky could make a run at 70 very quickly overnight going into Thursday. So this is what's going to catch a lot of folks off guard. You're going to go to bed around 9 to 10 p.m. thinking it's 40 degrees. I don't have anything to worry about. And then you're going to suddenly wake up at 3 a.m. to hearing loud thunder and very bright lightning. So a very, very tricky setup here. This is why we're kind of focusing on it a little bit more. To be honest with you, this is a very small scale severe weather event. However, we need to focus on it more because it's our first severe weather event in quite some time. And secondly, it's a nocturnal event, which means this is going to be happening during the nighttime when most folks are sleeping. And there is the potential for some spin ups. There is the potential for some moderate hail. There is a potential for 60 plus mile per hour wind gusts with this. So that's why we're talking about this a little bit more in depth than we would a regular smaller scale event. So just wanted to put that out there for you. So let's go over here to the composite reflectivity and let's look at what's going on here. So here's that rain on the onset Wednesday morning. That may be a little bit of freezing drizzle up there for northern Kentucky. Don't get caught off guard with that. Wednesday afternoon, maybe some moderate rain showers here in eastern Kentucky, but not a whole lot happening on Wednesday. Most of the action's actually to the north, and this tells us that the front is lifting well past Kentucky. That tells us what we saw on the temperature map. Warm air is going to surge all the way up to this rain line, and that puts most of Kentucky into the what we call the warm sector. That puts you into the zone for perhaps some stronger storms once that cold front or once that dry line begins to move through Kentucky late Wednesday going into overnight into Thursday morning. Speaking of that time frame, let's go ahead and advance to it. So here's what we're talking about here. Here's your line. Remember, this was actually moving to the north. Now this is turning and coming back to the south. So that's one thing to worry about. Number two is in front of that line, you're still going to have cells that may try and pop up somewhere near, like let's say Bowling Green, for example, moving west to east, while the dry line or the cold front is moving north to south. It's those west to east moving cells that might become supercells. All right. When you have a west to east moving cell in the middle of an event that's going north to south, or south to north, if you will, uh, you're going to have these tricky little cells that may try and become stronger than what they should be. Again, that's just moving against the wind field. And so it's taking those winds and it's reversing them as they're going up into the atmosphere. So you're having those tricky little cells that may pop up. There may only be a few that pop up in front of this line going west to east from Bowling Green to Somerset, very far southern portions of Kentucky, by the way, on this first part. Second part is where more of Kentucky gets in on it. But again, you might have those west to east movers that may pop up and bring even a brief tornado threat. Again, when you have those moving against the wind field like that, those are reversing winds. Those are rotating winds. Those are winds that are able to make it down to the surface. You don't need a whole lot of cape. We don't have a whole lot of cape available with this. Matter of fact, we only have 200 to 400 joules per kilogram in human terms. That's very, very small amounts of cape. But when you have an event that's very high shear like this, very high helicity like this in the middle of winter, you don't need a whole lot of cape. We learned this lesson. Again, this is not comparing this storm to 2021, but we learned this lesson in 2021 on those New Year's Day tornadoes. We don't need a whole lot of cape in the middle of winter for things to roll out. I think we only have 500 joules on that day there. I'd have to go back and double check that, but off the top of my head, I think that's what we had. Again, this is not going to be anything like that, but it's just an example to understand what we're looking at here. So advancing this on forward to about 2 to 3 a.m., those cells now become merged with this line. You might have some stronger cells out here just south of I-64 corridor, going out here toward eastern Kentucky. But now the focus turns toward this line that you're beginning to see develop along the Ohio River, stretching up from Cincinnati to Paducah. This might be a 100 to 200 mile long line of storms here that produces some nice wind gusts in front of them. Along this line, 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts will be present. And in some of those pockets where we do see the richer cape, where we do see the richer helicity at the surface, where we do see some richer ingredients at the ground, could produce some stronger storms. Also behind this, if you have an imagination real quick, this is where your moisture is, all right? Down here where you're seeing all this rain. Behind this, where you're seeing Carbondale or Effingham or Bloomington, that's a pocket of dry air that's going to be helping to force the storms rapidly to the south. These will be fast-moving storms. Those are going to be moving to the south. All right, and that's going to help try to enhance very locally some brief spots that may try and bow out or may try and produce moderate hail and wind gust. With this linear event, it really doesn't produce a tornado threat. You can still get tornadoes from a line of storms like this, but for lines of storms like this, we're looking at more of a moderate hail to maybe some brief wind gusts up to 65 mile per hour in this line. All right, so just wanted to put that out there. So the tornado threat's more for those west to east movers that we talked about earlier. The moderate hail to strong wind gust threat is more along with this line here. So advances forward to 4 to 5 a.m. You see that line does strengthen at that point. And then by the time it gets to the parkways, it'll die down. So there'll only be about a 2-hour period where this line's going to be strong to severe. It'll still be strong as it heads into southern Kentucky, sure, but it won't be strong to severe. So advances forward to 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. See that line really gets congealed, really gets its act together, and then next couple of clicks, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., it starts to become thinner. So this takes a bit of the severe threat away, but still has an isolated wind gust threat along this line. So you're still going to see some 40 to 50 mile per hour winds even after the severe threat is technically over. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. Severe winds, by the way, are anything greater than 55 mile per hour. Greater than 60 mile per hour, but 57 is technically the line. It gets hairy. Different folks have different guidelines on that. But 57 to 60 is kind of when things start to get more severe. Advance this forward to 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern time. That line is now pushing down towards southern Kentucky once again. And I do think by this point, this is usually where we have our weakest storms. I don't think this is anything at this point. So advance this on forward. It's kind of just moving on out of here. And then maybe a little action on Thursday afternoon as you see these right here, these little west to east movers once again want to kind of get going. Don't know if that's going to be the case or not. That's kind of where things start to get hairy. So the afternoon on Thursday, just know we may see a little bit more activity, but that's a little bit unclear at this point. FBI Buildings has over a half a century of experience in renovating, remodeling, and rebuilding any residential and commercial building. They also can give your pole barns new life. If any disaster does hit, be sure to go to FBIbuildings.com for a free quote. Digital Solutions in Radcliffe, Kentucky is a family-owned tech shop. Be sure to repair or purchase any device from them and keep the business local. Thank you to Kayla and her team for supporting W&K. It's a good idea after this harsh winter to make sure your roofs are ready to go for the springtime storms. If you're in or around Hardin County, make sure you check out Hyper Roofing at the link on your screen. And that link, by the way, will also be in the description below. I could list all of their accolades, but just know if I trust them and recommend them to you, that my word is good. Get ahead of the storms by making sure your home is ready for them. Right Implement has over 15 locations throughout all of Kentucky and making it convenient for you to go shop with them. They're our longest standing sponsor and we appreciate them so much for their support. They have so many things from outdoor apparel to outdoor vehicles to things to help you on your farm. Right Implement is such a phenomenal company and someone that you really want to support in Kentucky. Thank you so much to Right Implement and to all of our sponsors. We appreciate you. Let's get back into the video. So like I said, I wanted to show you the SPC's current outlook. It does have the current outlook basically from central Kentucky down to southern Kentucky, right in the middle portions of the state. I do think we may see a slight risk come out from, let's say, east of Bowling Green toward the London and Corbin areas. Again, that's where we see those west to east movers occurring. I do think you can also argue that this level 1 out of 5 risk should be extended up toward the Ohio River a little bit. Once again, I think once we get more throughout the afternoon, you'll see these adjustments be made to that general outlook. There is a tornado outlook with this as well. Basically, along the parkways to point south, positioned in that same area as that 1 out of 5 risk. Once again, I think you could probably see a brown area, which is slightly higher tornado odds, maybe from Corbin to Bowling Green. I don't know if they'll do that or not. It's very borderline. This is more of a hail and wind maker to me. Speaking of wind, here's your wind outlook: a 5 to 14% risk of severe winds, basically along the same area. I don't currently have a hail outlook. I think that will get added probably to the Thursday outlook here. So here's the Thursday outlook. So for those of you that don't know, these outlooks aren't a perfect midnight to midnight. They actually go until 6 a.m. Central Time. So technically, all the way up until 6 a.m. on Thursday, that will actually be on the Wednesday outlook here. These actually go until 6 a.m. Central Time of the next morning. So kind of a tricky thing there. And since that second line falls between 5 to 8 a.m., you may see an outlook come out for Thursday for that line on Thursday morning. Again, kind of gets hairy because you're right on the line of both the Wednesday outlook and the Thursday outlook. But that's the current SPC outlooks as we see them. I'll update you as they come through. So once again, I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with W&K. I want to thank you guys again for watching all this video. Make sure you're plugged into our Twitter, Facebook, and of course here on YouTube for more updates regarding this event and many more.